Okay, hello, everyone. Welcome. I think we already have some comments already. Sika, welcome. Rishabh, welcome. We've got Devil. Hello, sir. Thanks a lot for your blessings and support as a mentor. I appeared for 2022. I got into NLU Hyderabad. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that you will do well. And for the rest of you joining in, let's say hi. I think YouTube will take some time. There'll be a small lag in terms of the comments that we see, but
Yeah.
once we can get to see some highs, hellos, we can get
So hello
started.
everyone, and Gijo, really a pleasant surprise. I don't know what the actual name is. Devil is good enough, but pleasant surprise. The session was not for him, and he. I am assuming a he could be a she also. So the student has chosen to come specially. It really feels good.
Yeah. Arya, Arya Bharti. Good evening to you too. And the rest of you, we can just say hi to us and we'll get this started. So, so one thing that we're going to use during the session is your CLAT 2020. Your examination is going to happen in the month of December. So technically, it's still CLAT 2022, but we'll use CLAT 2023 as a sort of a nomenclature in this session
Yeah,
because
we can use that, Gijo. It's admission year.
admission, admission. Yeah. Hi, Dhruv. Hi, Vidushi, Suhansh.
Mahesh, Manogna Mahesh.
Manogna Mahesh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So let's get
Yeah.
this session started, and we'll do take. I'm sure that a lot of you have got a lot many questions, but give us about half an hour to 45 minutes to share some of the thoughts that we have. Then, of course, towards the end, we'll pick up any questions that you might have. Hi, Satvak. Okay, good evening to all of you. So my name is Gejo, and I have GP here with me. And
Hello.
since in inception of CLAT, we've been training students, and I'm and this probably our formal sort of session for the
Hmm.
2023 CLAT.
Yeah, and Gijo, the interesting bit is actually we started before CLAT. We started
Correct.
in 99 2000 when CLAT wasn't there and NLU, Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc. conducted their individual papers. And actually, I'm the first legal faculty of career launcher, LSG.
We are too old, GP. We are too old. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Is we're going to basically want to get some key learning from CLAT 2022 so that it can help you in your CLAT 2023 prep. By the way, CLAT 2023 is admissions year. It's 2023. Your exam is going to be in December 2022, but it's going to help those students taking December 2022 or December 2023. So
and,
we want to
and
pick up.
Gijo, just to add to what you said, if you look at this year's IELT, the NLU Delhi paper, that is very, very close to a CLAT paper this year. So
Correct.
what we are going to talk about will be useful not only for CLAT 23 but for IELT 23 also.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're going to do it in sort of three parts. We'll start kind of a big picture, it's a broad picture. We'll get into deep insights into each section. We have done an analysis of every single session of section of the clan. We'll give you insights, and we'll want to pick up eventually five learnings out of it. Right? I believe that these five learnings are going to be absolutely crucial in your preparation, and we sincerely hope that once you watch the sessions completely, you'll take away a very very important lesson that you can implement in your CLAT preparation. So let me start with sort of the big picture story. Now, so currently the CLAT admission process is still going on, and this is just a first list, sort of the last rank in the first list. I think there is going to be four lists eventually. So you see that NLSIU Bangalore, we just picked the top three, 104.75. That's the first place. Nalsar is 100.75 as a score, and NUJ is 97 as a score. This is for underserved category. When you compare that to probably the last couple of years, CLAT 2020, 92 was a score which could have got let's say Bangalore. CLAT 2021 is 103. So I believe the CLAT 2022 as a score is probably very similar to what we can find in CLAT 2021 as well. Right?
Well,
But this is going to change, of course. at least an answer NUJs, because the process is still on. So once the process is done and we'll get the data, then we'll probably present this graph later in some other session. Uh, One thing that I want to talk about at this point in time is, while you see that there are CLAT 2020, CLAT 2021, and CLAT 2022, when you look at, let's say, possibility in terms of the level of difficulty that is possible. So, for example, a section can be easy, section can be medium, section can be difficult. So each of them has got three possibilities each, and we have 243 sort of total possibilities that anyone could actually be a CLAT, right? Is there any sort of GP, any sort of
Mhm.
set pattern? Do they have something in mind? Do they have thought process in terms of what level of difficulty they want to give it?
See, typically, before they start creating a paper, I'm sure there would be some broad structure in mind and broad pattern in mind which they have in terms of the level of difficulty of the sections. Okay. By and large, what you'll see is, irrespective of which year we talk about, the level of overall level of difficulty of the paper does not change much. Okay, but across a particular section, across a section it will change. For example, if you look at this year's paper, which is CLAT 22, this year GK was difficult. Okay, yeah, GK was difficult if you look at it. While the last 2 years it was not. Okay, this year a score of something like 20 odd in GK out of 35 was a very good score. Last year a score of about 25, less than 25, people would have been disappointed with their performance. So, right, so the level of difficulty of a section will keep on changing. What will not change is the, by and large, the overall level of difficulty, and that you can see with respect to CLAT 21 and CLAT 22 also. If you look at the two papers, and I would say CLAT 20 was also similar, but there's a reason why the scores are lower. CLAT 21 and CLAT 22, at this point of time, with the second list out, the cutoffs for the top three NLUs are almost the same as last year. Okay, and with the third and the fourth list coming out, they were, my guess is there'll be a difference of maybe 0.25 or half a mark at all. So overall level of difficulty remains the same. CLAT 2020, again, if you look at, none of the section was difficult, yet the scores were lower, and that's a very common thing which happens when the pattern changes. A new pattern typically leads to these kind of changes. Okay, when I say new pattern, obviously there's a current pattern, and then it was an offline paper. Okay, so when you look at all overall things in this scenario, the new pattern, whenever it is introduced, leads to coming down of scores because students are not comfortable, they have not practiced those kind of papers. While CLAT 21 and 22 students had a huge advantage that they had practiced these kind of papers. So which is why the scores have gone up, even though you find the overall level of difficulty of 21 and 20 is slightly higher as compared to 20. Okay?
One
But by and
important
large,
thing,
I said overall difficulty is unlikely to change even for 23. Sorry, Jijo.
one other thing that you have to look at is, look at any section across, right? So you look at English, for example, couple of easy section, one was medium, logic was easy here, then medium here, medium there, legal was medium, easy, medium, quant was medium, medium, sort of easy. Actually, there were some questions which were wrong here in
Yeah.
2020, 2021.
I was about to say that. In 22, it was an easy section, but they messed up because the language was pathetic, and which led to the question being interpreted differently.
And GK, we have got two easier, two difficult. So one of the things that you will have to start by saying is that when I look at your CLAT, you're going to have no idea specifically as to what is going to come. I think whether it's going to be that this kind of a paper, or maybe a paper which is like this. You never know what eventual level of difficulty is going to come. But by and large, overall, we're looking at something like a 95 plus score is a score, at least in the last 3 years, which can be probably top three, or let's say the 100 plus score is going to be absolutely good. If you want to start hitting some national university, you want to look at score which is about 80ish. So that's broadly where we're going to go with. But one of the key things that you have to pick up when you're looking at preparation is that don't sort of have any favorite subjects or favorite areas, or because you never know what eventually is going to happen in the test.
Yeah.
So
Just
that's
to add to Jijo what you said, that don't have a favorite subject, and that thing is extremely important. Students tend to bank on one or two sections to take them through. That will not work. If the section you are banking on, for example, this year, the students who are banking on GK to take them through would have suffered a lot. Okay. Similarly, last year, people who are banking on logic to take them through or quant to take them through may have suffered. So don't bank on one section. You'll have to say 3 out of 5. Ideally, 4 out of 5 you should be reasonably good. One you can be average or below average also. But 4 out of 5 sections ideally is what you have to say. I am reasonably comfortable at least 4 out of 5, and the fifth one I can manage. If it is 3 and 2 instead of 4 and 1, it becomes that much more difficult. And if it is 2 and 3, then I'm sorry, I would not bank on you getting through.
In fact, to simplify whole thing, actually, you can combine all these three together: English, logic, and legal, as something that is testing your comprehension. English asking is basic comprehension, logic looking at reasoning, legal is looking at whether you can apply certain principle onto certain facts that is given to you, and then there is quant, and then there is GK. So you can actually look at this as sort of 1, 2, 3. So which means that you will have to be at least in chunks reasonably good at in these three chunks. Otherwise, you will be, you cannot second guess the paper and say that I'm going to ensure that my legal score is going to be more than this. That is going to take me through. That is sort of one thing that you have to keep in mind in your preparation. Okay.
And just finally to add to one small thing, in the last couple of weeks we have gone through multiple achievers meets. We have met lots of students. We even before that we had interviewed them and talked to them. Now you'll be surprised. There's a student going to NLU Bangalore, and also to there are students going to Bangalore, Hyderabad, and this Calcutta also, with scores of less than 5 in quant. There are students who have scored, let's say, 15, 16, 17 marks in GK and going into these top 3 NLUs. So my point essentially is one section, average or below average performance will not matter. But end of the day, it can be only one section. If there are two sections in which you have below average performance, then it is going to be a challenge for you to make it to the desired institute.
Correct. So let's quickly get into insights. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these section and give you some learning, so you can understand and pick your the so get a sense in terms of what the paper was. We will though the analysis is presented that we are presenting is CLAT 2022. We'll also pick up certain facts that we know about 2020 and 2021 as well. So let's start with English, logic, and legal. So let me start with English. The way in which we have looked at any comprehension sort of paper has got two components. One component is that you are given a certain passage, and second component you have got a set of questions. Questions will have so the passage complexity of passage can come from, let's say, the topic itself. For example, a particular topic you are not comfortable with, then you might struggle. And the second is the word length. The more number of word is given to you, so that much challenge for you to read that. And the third is how dense it is. So there are a lot of different ways you can evaluate a dense factor. There are a lot of grades that is available. We have used this grade called Flesch-King grade level, which uses this particular formula. Just sort of an understanding of what could be the dense factor. So it basically looks at the total words in a sentence, more number of words in a sentence. That's a long, dense sentence. Total number of syllables in a word. So long word, therefore difficult. It is not necessary that more syllables word are necessarily difficult to read. Understanding has got not many syllables, but it's still kind of easy to understand. But it still gives a sense. So this kind of gives a grade level, which basically say that it starts from a grade of 1, goes on till 20, 21. That means that assume that a grade of 12 means someone who has completed 12 year of education should be able to read it. That's that broadly what that means. That does not mean that a 16 grade is something that you cannot read. Okay, so that's sort of three things that you look at. So so we'll keep looking at these. This number is important. Forget about the word, and we look at the type of questions. We have not evaluated options, though it is also important to understand that the options of the answer choices given to you, especially in comprehension, can make your life difficult. If there are very, very nuanced traps in answer choices that can make your life, that can increase the complexity of the particular question. So this is broadly what we're going to start. We're going to start, let's look at, this is the story of English. So there were 6 passages. One very interesting thing is, if I look at the sources and if I compare that to GB Romba 2021, I think it
Yeah,
was more of Indian Express. I think I remember a lot of
perfect.
Indian Express editorial was there in 2021. But here we have got encyclopedia. This is from a book. This is from sort of Economic and Political Weekly. In fact, there were three kind of passages where I cannot find the source. It was not in the net. So I'm basically guessing that this probably would be some material that they have. Maybe the students would have written it, researchers would have written it. So one is the sources have been very varied. The topic is also is okay: animal rights, socialized fossil fuels, public speaking, cryptocurrency. This was also a diverse set of topic. And if I look at the reading level, mind you, anything about 12 is manageable. I think that's manageable. So you look at some passages are pretty dense. You've got 16.6, 15.8, 15.1, and a couple of are in a dense level, sort of easy. When I look at the word length, which was very surprising, is that all these word lengths were more than 500 words. That's the 500 plus word, 550 words on an average. And when I look at the questions, it has got so if I big picture question are those questions which ask you about the main idea, primary purpose, tone, and stuff like that. Fact based are basically information that is given in the passage. Vocabulary based questions would be the contextual meaning of word from the passage, and inference based what can be inferred from the passage and stuff. You see that there is a good mix in terms of how this was asked, right? So just to give a summary here, approximately 540 words. You got 10 to 16 grade level of multiple grade level from diverse sources. Plus you actually see that you've got all type of questions given to you. GP, what's your take given what we have seen?
Okay. Okay. First of all, I'm not surprised with the length of the passage. Okay, I think that 500, 550 on the higher side, 600 is perfectly fine. And given the length of the paper that we have, that is the kind of passage which should be there. To me, it is the choices which are much more interesting. Okay. Okay. One more thing. I'm frankly very happy with the diversity in the kind of passages, because when you pick up a single source, which was the case earlier, what that means is the passage tend to become similar, and hence a student who's more comfortable will have an advantage over the students who are not comfortable with that kind of passage. When you have diverse topics, there will be some passages you will be comfortable with, there will be some passages you will not be comfortable with. So that in a way provides a level playing field. So diverse sources is extremely happy. I am extremely happy to see that. Okay. Secondly, when you look at the choices, okay, effectively, if you look at the big picture inference based questions, which is about almost slightly more than half the questions, okay. Now that means if you understand the passage, you can possibly answer the question without going back to the passage at all. So the focus here is on comprehension. As the passage, the section is also reading comprehension. So the focus very clearly is on comprehension. And when you look at the vocab based questions, the words were by and large such that you could answer the question even if you did not know the exact meaning. From context, you could pick out the question. You could pick out the meaning of the word, and contextually, it was more of a contextual vocabulary where even if you don't know the exact meaning, you should be still able to guess it. And fact based is just about one fourth. Okay, so to me, when I look at big picture, inference, and vocab, this is almost three-fourths of the paper. So three-fourths of the paper is something which is basically checking your comprehension, because contextual vocabulary again is comprehension. Okay, and there's only one-fourth of the question which are saying, okay, how much do you remember? Okay, so to me this is a fairly interesting kind of a paper, and from a student's point of view, what that means is keep your focus on comprehension. If you by and large can understand words when you're reading newspapers, magazines, journals, articles, books, etc., by and large you should be able to get the vocabulary based questions here also. So while many people might say, okay, 17% vocab based questions, which is 17 is how much? About 5 questions or 6 questions. Okay,
You have got
17.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions here, GP.
Yeah, so 5 6 questions out of that. So if you say so many questions, do I need to mug up words? No, you don't need to. My suggestion to all students will be, please go back to these passages, see what are the vocab based questions. Could you have got the answer from a contextual reading of the passage or not? If yes, frankly, you don't need to worry about Wilfred Sunk or Norman Lewis or others. By and large, you need to just focus on understanding the passage.
One thing I wouldn't want to look at is, in fact, I recorded a video on this particular one of this particular passage, 15.1, which will come out, let's say, in a couple of days. What you actually notice is that you really don't have to get worried about this length here. If you get a broad understanding, which means I know how, when I'm reading a particular passage, I understand So let's say the main idea of each of this paragraph that is given to me. I understand that which sentence is important. I can look at the structure of how the argument is presented to me. If that was enough, that you really, most of this question, the way in which option was created, you really did not have to go back. So here, therefore, what is critical and crucial is your ability to kind of read, understand, sort of diverse area would be absolutely sort of crucial when it comes to English. That's one.
And
Uh,
just to add to that part, if you are sticking to one newspaper, and I've find that very often with students, they read only one newspaper, whether it is Hindu or Times of India, Indian Express, they read only one. Please diversify. You could have one base newspaper because from a GK perspective, you want to do one newspaper because that gives you kind of a continuity. But in addition to that one newspaper, every day take another paper. Let me assume you have a habit of reading Indian Express. Now, what you should do is, in addition to Indian Express, every day you should read either the Times of India or the Hindustan Times or the Telegraph or the Hindu or some other paper. You can just keep rotating. You can keep changing those papers. Okay. Secondly, look at the encyclopedia.com and Economic and Political Weekly. Try to diversify beyond newspapers. Okay? Try to diversify beyond newspapers. So the more variety you introduce into your reading, the better equipped you will be able to handle these papers.
yeah. So one thing that I've when we are speaking to all these achievers, right? When we are speaking to them, one thing was common. They had whether some set of students have always been reading throughout the life. Just type me. Uh, if somebody say we've got great reading habit on the chat box, just let me see how many bees comes out. So I have got an amazing reading habit. I've been reading throughout my life. Those are the students would naturally find advantage. But even if that is not the case, you can definitely build these skills, and this is one of the skills that you should definitely work on. Okay, so that's number one. Uh, let's get to logic. When you went to logic, so even though you look at this was from Times of India, Tribune India, that was editorials. There were a couple of journals that were picked, and one was taken from this site called nature.com, which has got articles. This is what very journal articles on natural sciences. And you've got even an editorial at the grade level that you can actually see is across the board. But what is interesting is that when it came to logic, it is the number of words that you have to read is hardly much, right? So that is one aspect here. And when you look at question, so when you look at logical reasoning, you're thinking about questions on inferences, you're thinking of question on assumptions, you're thinking of question on impact on new evidences, which is and new evidences given strengthen, weaken questions. You think about application question, analogy question. This is what you typically understand from what logic is. And but you have a lot of big picture questions again, which is the central idea or what is the main point. In one way that it's also logic because it is asking the main conclusion of an argument, but it's also not many questions which is very RC types. So the so while you had to read that much in the reading comedy section, in terms of the content that you read is very manageable. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that while when you're looking at any sort of paper, I think this will keep experimenting in a mock test as well. When you take this mock test, there might be some section which is lengthy this time, other section which are less number of things to read. So, but at least it was consistent here is that the logic had the logic had questions or the passages were something that was manageable. And again, this is very sort of very interesting here, and this is more like reading comprehension, if you ask me. And the real logical reasoning questions were sort of limited. Somehow wonder what is the actual difference between reading comprehension and logical reasoning. GP, I basically treat these two as absolutely the same.
Gijo,
Uh,
I've actually always struggled ever since CLAT created this new pattern. My question was, why do you need three different sections? I felt they're continuing with the three sections purely on account of legacy. Otherwise, for all practical purposes, for me, all of them are the same. And when I look at this year's paper, you're absolutely right. There's no difference between reading comprehension and logic. By and large, I would say reading comprehension has lengthier passage and logic has shorter passages. And in logic, you have only one third of the questions, or less than a third of the questions, which are actually so-called logic, which is inference, assumption, etc., etc. Okay, but if you look at other papers outside CLAT, inference, assumption, etc., questions, these kind come in reading comprehension in any case. While in CLAT we have not seen those kind of questions in a larger number, these kind of questions come in GMAT. These kind of questions come in LS
GP, actually, when you look at this, no, inference-based question is 30% here on reading
yeah.
comprehension, and inferences
It's
here is 10%, which is
you add assumption, new evidence, and application also to that. Na? To me, all of
okay.
them are basically inference-based questions. So to me, the only difference between these two is one has got 550 word 40 word passages, another has got 230 word passages. Frankly, I don't see any difference between the two, and in these two sections as such. Okay.
Another thing, of course, is that all these are since are all argument based. These are all very opinionated based. Someone presenting an argument, somebody has a position, they're defending the position. So, and the rest, when you look at reading comprehension, is more in terms of information that is given to us. So, when you look at the CLAT, at least where the CLAT is looking, the way in which I see CLAT, at least the CLAT that I saw in 2020, those 60 questions of English plus logic, the skill set is exactly the same. Obviously, I need to understand what is inferences, assumptions, strength and weakening one, application questions. Application question would be question which is like, okay, given what is given in the passage, using that, where can I apply this? In fact, if you look at your legal reasoning is complete application. You are given a principle
Absolutely.
and given, okay, now apply this to somewhere else, apply this to a new situation. So, sort of technically speaking, when you look at this section, your skill set is still the same, which then means that whatever is the preparation that you're doing for logic, or whatever the preparation that you're doing for English, it both is going to has to go side by side simultaneously, and that will help you. So, which means, again, coming back to the whole thing, biodiversity, fossil fuel, this is an amendment. This is about POSCO. Again, wide variety of topic, from natural sciences, from current affairs, from social sciences, from humanities. So you need to ensure that you have got a good sort of spread in terms of your reading. So that's something with logic GP. Let's go quickly go to legal. Uh, And so I basically look at legal in so this was a constitutional law, a couple of them from constitutional law, one couple from marriage law, and one international law, one on contract, one on substantive development, one on writ. So what I see very sort of different from 2022 from what we saw in 2021 and 2020. I think you remember GP, this 2020 had some, out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 passages, about 50% were contract. Yeah,
Yeah,
they are. Huh?
that's right. That's right. Actually, six out of eight were almost predictable, which was the older legal reasoning kind of passages.
And now here you have got, let's say, some of these topic that was given is also wherein you really did not use any pre notion or
Yes.
the knowledge to apply. And when you look at the word, all did not challenge you. So these are all roughly about 200 to 250 words. So you can easily pick up the principle from here and apply it. Though if you look at this grade level of 19 point, I think 15.2, don't worry about it. That's how legal passages are. Okay, it is going to have dense sentence structures. So I'm not surprised here that this has got this kind of a grade here. But it was fair in terms of saying that, okay, fine, read the principle and kind of solve it. If I look at the type of questions, if I can divide into fact principle, which means the principle is given in the passage and fact is given in the question, you are going to apply the principle into the fact and answer the question. And the second is purely passage based, some information from the passage is asked, more like reading comprehension types.
Yes.
So if I look at the paper again, you still had about 23% of the question which was passage based. So which is more of read RC, okay, and you've got 77% are sort of true fact principle questions. So when so that means how many were there? It's about 3, 4, 5, 9 questions. So 9 questions from here is actually reading comprehension. So the remaining 31 questions were actually, in one sense, the true sort of legal reasoning questions.
And
So
Gijo, if you just go back to the previous slide, look at that passage on, let's say, sustainable development. Okay, that passage could easily have come in logical reasoning rather than legal.
because we
Same
are
as,
a 4% passageways, GP.
yeah. Okay,
So
even the other ones. So as far as I'm concerned, and this is what the two of us have been saying for the last couple of years, while there's a segregation of sections, you have to treat the three sections as the same kind of thing, because the skill required to do well in these three sections, whether it is English, which is reading comprehension, or logic, or legal, is the same. It's the same skill set which is being tested, and you look at the questions, it is very, very obvious.
yeah, it makes sense in terms of if you are got comfortable with legal passages, you can comprehend the passage better. So it is also important that you read articles on legal. There are a lot of sites that is available. I'm sure your teacher would have told you. It is to be comfortable in logic. It is important that you read opinionated article, which is then editorial. To comfort English, you need to have a diverse set of reading and the comprehension of the passage. And the rest is about handling specific question type. So if you actually look at it, we have got 30 questions here, 30 questions here, and let's say 40 questions here. We have got 100 questions from comprehension. And how much of a difficult that somebody can make comprehension, right? It is still not based on knowledge, right? It is based on it is an open book exam. It is there. Your passage is right there. So if let's say if I want to look at something like a score of 95 plus, or let's say I want to put a score of 100 plus, and it is absolutely important, GP, that from here I have to actually start thinking of getting 80 plus as a score, or 75 plus as a score, or 70 plus as a score, something like that. I have to start thinking in these lines. Of course, it depends upon how difficult or easy the paper is, but by and large, I need to ensure that I have to make my comprehension solid. So there is no doubt. I think if I ask people who have made it rank two, rank three, rank seven, rank nine, 20, 30, 50, I'm talking to all of them. Their score. The GP said people with the score of, let's say, 15
GK.
in GK, and still made it. And it makes sense, right? For example, if I am able to get, let's say, out of these 180 questions correct, and add 15 here from GK, that's 95. And then add
Another
another
5 to 7,
10, and 10 more here. We have got 100, or
or
let's
not
say
10, even 5. If
even
5 will
five.
get you to a Nalsa or a Calcutta, definitely.
The key thing that we have to understand, and this is the biggest learning that all of us has to take. I have no idea what they're going to do with GK. I have no clue. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what kind of question they ask. This is because it is vast. There is We can't be spending 10 hours every single day mugging GK, and we'll not remember. We'll have to obviously do something with respect to our GK prep, of course. And with respect to maths, it is, of course, we have to work. I'm not saying we should escape it, but this is an area where if you are good in comprehension, how difficult can they give? I mean, what level of
And
passage? Uh,
yeah, and Gigi, if you look at the score of 100, with a 5 in English, with a 15 in GK, you can still get a score of 100 in overall.
5 plus
With a
15,
5
which is
5 plus
um,
15. But just
um,
reverse this. Even if you get a 30 in GK and 10 in the other section, which is maths, and which is not very common, you still need at least a 60. So here we are talking about 15 plus 5 becoming double to 30 plus 10. Even then, your score requirement of English is only going down from 70 to 60. You still need a 60 in comprehension. So to me, I have always maintained this is a English, this is a comprehension, this is a reading comprehension paper. You may call it logical reasoning, you may call it legal reasoning. That is how I got into started teaching students legal reasoning. I said at the end of the day, this is critical reasoning. This is reasoning which is there. A principle is given, a passage is given. I need to understand that and apply. So what is the skill required? Reading comprehension. So to me, from a student's perspective, I think this is something they need to be very, very clear. If you have to get into one of the top three, you need to have a bare minimum of 70 in this paper, in these three sections combined. Okay. Obviously, it is assuming the paper will be similar to last 2 years paper.
yeah, so one thing I want to also talk about is that let's say there is an example LSAT, right? In LSAT has got some 13, 14 types of, there are two sections, for a four section LSAT. Two section is critical reasoning, or what they call as logical reasoning, short passages, core critical reasoning questions. There are about 13, 14 types of critical reasoning questions that comes. One of them is actually applying principle, which is actually very similar to this legal reasoning. I think the problem happens when we start imagining that for me to do well in legal, it is necessary for me to know knowledge of legal. It is not. I mean, your comfort level with the passage helps. Therefore, of course, please do read. Please read as much. We have got books. I'm saying do that. But at the end of the day, I should, if I want to hit scores which is like at 80, 75, knowledge alone is not gonna help you. You should develop that skill of applying the simple skill. So and ensure that if you are today, GP, one thing I want to say today, let's say you're taking a mock test, and let me talk about a student one and a student two. Let's say that student one got a score of 80, students two score of 80. Now imagine, let's say the comprehension score versus the rest score. Okay, imagine the students who got 70 has got a comprehension score of 70, and the rest score is 10 because the GK is bad. Imagine the students whose comprehend the rest of the score is, let's say, close to about 40, and the comprehension score is 40. You tell me which student is in a better position.
No doubt, the first one.
So trying to build this, I think if you don't, while you look at the score 80, you'll be very happy. But please understand that it is important that you build your comprehensive skills, and this is something that you must do. We are not obviously spending time how to do it. That is, we'll keep it as a separate session. But I just want to identify the problems for you to solve.
And Gijo, I think I want to just take this question. This is here. Okay. Now, reading section. Yes, everything can be made difficult, but please understand what this paper is all about. This is a paper which is focusing you. It is a paper to select lawyers, future or potential lawyers. For them, the reading comprehension or the logic or the reasoning skill is going to be the most important skill. Which is why this paper, out of 150 questions, has 100 questions which are focused toward reading comprehension. Okay, so please be clear. This is the base. We are not no stage saying the others are not important. We'll come to those two sections also. But the first thing to understand is one, all three sections, whether it is English or logical reasoning or legal, are testing the same skill. Second, this is the base of the paper, and getting a score of about 70 odd out of 100 is something which is not only doable but also essential for you to get into the top C institutes.
I must ask for theory of everything who asked that question. One of the tests that is actually has challenging our reading comprehension and critical listening question is LSAT India. So LSAT India as an examination has got really challenging. The level of reading comprehension LSAT India, compare that to CLAT. LSAT India is really challenging. So it, and then you can still score. I think students could score high. The point that I'm saying is that there is only so much that somebody can make your the comprehension difficult. But somebody is good in comprehension will still do well. In fact, I will also go one step ahead and say that if you look at the questions in LSAT India and solve some of these questions and learn from them, it is also going to really help you in your sort of your preparation. Maths, GP,
Yeah.
only percentages and ratio. I don't. Was there anything else?
No, it is this only. And if you look at last year, also it was this. The only other thing I will want to add from a student perspective is to do averages. The reason to do averages is not because questions will come or not. If you understand the averages, you will be able to calculate things faster. You will be able to get to the answers faster. So this is what you need to do. Don't worry about other areas.
And and and,
Basic
and,
calculation skills.
there were 15 questions, and all these 15 questions were doable, right? 15 marks. And while we talked about comprehension, let me talk about this. There was one year, I think, I think 2020 and also 2021 had the geometry questions. In fact,
Yes.
2021 geometry question was wrong. The
Mm.
passage was wrong. 2020, but there's a basic sort of area. If you understand area, basic stuff, you will get it. So one thing that I've seen is that people just don't. It's like saying, GP, I'll give you 150 questions. They'll say, nah, I don't want it. You keep the 15. I will not look at quant. This was a paper where it was actually possible to get 10 plus.
Yes.
It was actually actually possible even to get 15, because all you need is basic things. For you, you can only, how much can you push? Like for example, our theory of everything was saying, if the paper comprehension becomes, let's say, a little tough or anything, I may end up from 80, I may go down to 70. I need, so before I get to GK, I need my quant. And I please don't be afraid of that. If you've not touched quant today, you'll never touch it unless you touch today. I've seen this GP is that people keep postponing later, 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 later. Before knowing, they just don't touch it,
And
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 it's
and the
absolutely
later never happens.
never happens. It is
In fact,
today.
Gijo, out of the three students who I met in the last couple of days or couple of weeks, who got 4 to 5 marks in GK, one of the students had a total score of 100.25 with 4 marks. Sorry, 4 to 5 marks in English in QA, quantitative techniques. One of the students, his first advice to everyone else was, please don't ignore quant. Please don't ignore quantitative techniques. I am happy going to NUJS Kolkata, but had I focused a little more on quantitative techniques, I would have been in Bangalore, because with 4 marks in quant, his total was 100.25. Had he got another three questions, and I asked him, did you have time? Yes, I had time, but I did not know how to solve. Why? Because I did not practice sufficiently. Had he done another 3 to 4 questions, he would have been in analysis Bangalore. So 100.25 with 4 marks in QA. The other two were going to the Bangalore, but let's not worry about them. So important thing is, this is not a section which you can ignore. I will say this is a typically an easy question section. Many students who are preparing for law are not comfortable or don't like mathematics, but this is not mathematics. This is what you do when you go shopping. This is what you do when you go online on an e-commerce site. This is what you do when you are placing an order on Zomato. So this is what you do on a day-to-day basis. Please do it. Okay, please do it. Don't ignore this. As theory of everything said, this don't ignore this section. Others are important, but that does not mean this is not important. In these 15 questions, well, that is the base. This is the topping. You don't want the pizza base only, na? You want the topping also. So there's a topping on your pizza, and if you don't do well here, your pizza is going to be tasteless.
Yeah. And for Yash, your question, I'm a science background. I always hated reading. So first of all, there is no hate. There's no hate. That there is no emotions here, right? And this goes for everything. There is no emotion. I don't. I'm agnostic. I am forced to do these things because I have a dream. I have a target. I have to get into the school of my choice. If I have to ensure that I start reading, even if you, let's say, hate reading, how can you hate reading? You've read so many things in your life. If you're doing for science, I'm sure that you've read lot many stuff. Your class books. It's just that start reading stuff beyond your comfortable. Read other things, and it'll start. It'll be difficult in the beginning, but then if you stick at it, you'll do it. So it's like let me also tell you one thing: July, August, September, October, November, December. I think closer to the CLAT, no, October, November, December, because your most of your work will be your GK, because GK requires time, because you have to pump in stuff in your head and keep it there. So you'll pick up a lot of end up spending a lot of time on GK. Your July, August, September. While of course you're doing GK, I'm not saying you're not doing GK. Well, you're still doing GK here, the GK here, and but the substantial chunk towards the end is going to take for GK. You've got these 3 months, and in these 3 months, if you have a problem in any of these areas, whether it is comprehension or whether it is quant, now is the time to address it. And if you don't address it, you'll never address it. And let's talk
And
about
one small thing to Yash. Science background means you are at a distinct advantage over everyone else, or from those over those who are not from science background, because many of them would not be able to, or would not be comfortable doing quantitative techniques, and you should be saying, I will get 15 out of 15 here. So that gives me a small advantage. Second thing is, as a science student, you have a habit of reading one kind of passages, which means science kind of passage, maybe physics, maybe chemistry, or etc. etc. The only reason why you are saying you hate, possibly you have not even tried reading the other kind of passages. Okay? However, if you read newspapers or you read magazines, you read novels, I'm sure you will be able to pick up the other stuff also. So don't worry. It is a task, as you just said. You have to pick it, take it up, and take it to completion.
I'll quickly pick a couple of what is the level of difficulty of CLAT compared to CLLST mocks. CLLST mocks has got we have got what for 40 mocks. The 40 mocks gave 40 scenarios, which means there are mocks which are much more difficult than CLAT 2022. It was at par with CLAT 2022. Some mocks were easier than CLAT 2022. So that's the whole purpose of mocks, right? So exposing you to multiple things.
Pranav, we started off by saying there are 3 to power 5 or 243 different combinations of degree of difficulty. Okay. So all we'll try to do in those 40 papers is to expose you to different kind of papers, because no one can tell you which of these 243 combination will appear. Our job is to equip you to an extent where you can handle those surprises, those shocks in the paper. Okay.
There are some specific question that is asking about math is weak, uh, building comprehension skills, how to read newspaper. I think what we'll do is that since that is beyond the purview of this particular session, we'll pick up
Yeah.
each of these questions that you're asking, and we'll come back and come back and talk to you again. Okay.
Sure.
Just want to let's just talk about general awareness. This was total. so so when you look at the general awareness, we look at the kind of topic Russia-Ukraine war, drone Shakti, AFSPA, or CSR fund, Sagar Vision, Green Tech, or ISR was happening everywhere. These are all news that happened. So barring, for example, a couple of them, this was in the month of, this article was picked from the month of March 2022, February 2022, Jan, March, Feb. And this ad from Economic Times, India Today, Hindu, Sunday Guardian, Economic Times, your normal newspapers, your stuff that you have. Anything that comes in Economic, I'm sure it comes in Hindu. And barring maybe a few one which was slightly old. I don't know why they gave this one. I don't know why they picked this article. I have no idea. Other sort of interesting thing when it come to this time is the history, which means there were questions. For example, here in this particular passage, they went all the way to 2020, 3 years ago, and there were a lot many questions which were based on solid fact about something, right? Fact, and then there were the question actually linked to the current news. So one of the challenge that people found here is that some of these news items were not sort of the mainstream news. Many people sort of probably would have missed this news. Second of all, the issue was second of issue was you've got many of these were outside of you needed to have a little more in-depth knowledge of this. So when you look at the current distillate of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 questions here, this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions here, this is 2 questions here, this is what 4, 5, 8, 10, 15 questions here, right? You had, which is also the reason as to why people were able to probably look at a few questions, not able to score, let's say something like a 30 here. One thing that I want to give a sense in terms of current affairs. Okay, just give a sense of current affairs. This was a 2020 examination happened in September, and it was an online test. 2021 examination happened in July. 2022 examination happened in June. Your examination is going to happen in 2022 December. This is going to be 2022. Okay, December. And look at in 2020. Where was the article picked from? Because it was online, they could actually give the paper out because there is no printing was not involved. 2021, almost everything came here. Even in 2022, so majority of the stuff came actually closer to the whole thing. Though there were two which was kind of oddball. So if I look at your story, I'm very likely that probably these are very hot months. The current months are very hot months. But that also, but given the fact that you have got your question which is also going back, so those of you who have already preparing and already reading newspaper will be able to build context because the current affairs moves, right? The story moves. So it is important that you have a sort of sensible preparation which has to be built from your newspapers, your ability to read multiple newspapers. So that is not only going to help you with respect to your GK, it is also going to help you with respect to other areas. And yeah. So any word of caution here, GP? that the students should
Yeah.
consider?
Jijo, and more than for for CLAT 23 students, I'll say CLAT 24 students. I want them to to caution them. Many CLAT 24 students, what they will do is they'll say, I will start doing GK only after January. Okay. Now there's a problem there. Now, if you go look at this previous slide, Jijo, look at the second and the third, the history fact kind of a thing. Now, these are questions which are older. These are static almost. They're not current. So when we say current, it means the issue is current. What I want students to understand, the issue is current, but that current issue will have a back into it, wherein the question might even be from 2, 3, 4 years ago. Okay. So if there's a question which says, which talks about, let's say, Nupur Sharma section 153A etc. is in news today. They may even ask you about something which happened with respect to that passage about 1925-26 also, when something similar had happened. So what you need to be clear, the issue would be current, but the questions connected to it could be from history also. So static is important. Static is something you should not ignore. Also, please remember, IELTS never says that I will not ask static. IELTS also asks. And in the current scenario, both CLAT and IELTS are almost the same paper with a difference in the number of, in the amount of time. But by and large, current issue is current. A few questions of the issue will be current affairs, and few questions from the same issue will be from past.
There
So
are a
some of
couple of things
so
that
so so so, so sorry, just to complete. So CLAT 24 students, please start doing GK now. Don't say I'll start from January. You have to start reading newspapers now. Okay.
I'm saying read newspaper. You don't have to sit and note down stuff. Read newspaper regularly.
Yes.
So there are sort of two pieces of advice that I want to give you. Is that what is going to be very shocking when you look at this paper is that how do I? There is so many things to do. How can it give some importance? It is almost going to be impossible to say what is important because they are not putting important topics, right? These are not the main sort of event. There are a lot of Russia Ukraine war happened. Then they went there and asked about the name of Zelensky with some initials also. Two options trying to find initial. These are not sort of the main big events that happened in the country. So therefore, one thing that we cannot, nobody can. If anybody claims that I can give you a list of important topics, you can't, right? So you have this vast amount of information in front of you. It make it very overwhelming. So what you even have to do is keep your life absolutely simple. We know that people, if the paper was difficult like the one today, the students were preparing for GK. I know how students prepare for GK. I've seen them slogging. The person was slogged and you usually used to get out of 35 questions 30, 32 in the actual examination when got 25, but that 25, 27 was still very good for that examination.
Very good.
If the current affairs turns out to be very crazy, it is going to be crazy for all. You don't start preparing like UPSC. So don't start now going heaven. Do the normal thing. You've got newspaper, right? You've got, especially for 2023, you've got month in. That's our monthly newsletter. Use that. You'll get mock test starting from July. Ensure that every single event that you're doing every day. Have a simple sort of a plan of action for it, and keep it sort of smooth and simple during this period of time. And I know that when you look at these questions related to fact or anything, that'll be revolving around that issue. So let's say Russian-Ukraine war. The question was, what is the currency of Ukraine? So when you look at that, whatever is the static, that is static revolving that particular issue. You will have to obviously make some bet in terms of topic that you want to do, but you have a good habit of reading. And I've seen this GP, the people who have eventually done well in current affairs are the people who enjoy current affairs. Which means they
Yes.
enjoy this
I've
concept
no
of
doubt about it. Hmm.
they
And
just uh,
secondly, when it comes to current affairs, and this is one of the things that most students said. They said they learned GK most by discussing with their friends. Almost all of them had a study group. In their study group, GK discussion was a very normal thing. So when you're discussing something with your friends, the chances of you being able to retain that information is much higher. So GK is discussion. GK is not just reading and mugging up. Yeah.
yeah. So don't get overwhelmed by this idea that, oh, it was very difficult. If the paper is difficult, it's going to be difficult for all. So you keep your GK preparation as it is. I'm guessing that a lot of you have already started and doing very well. For those of you taking the test later, let's say in 2023 December, which for 2024 admission, just start with the habit of reading newspapers. Make your current affairs story very enjoyable, but don't bank on it completely. If let's say if the mainstream news comes, then you'll get 30, 35 plus points out of 30, out of 35. That everybody get. The people who are preparing well will get it. So typically, when you look at the GK story, it's completely based on knowledge. And by and large, GP, the knowledge that is acquired by students are more or less the same. You are studying really well because they're looking at the same set of sources. The news is around them, so so eventually they get one good score. So for example, the paper the GK becomes easy. Everybody tends to get, let's say, score close to about 30, and good set of students. Like if GK tends to be difficult, then the good set of students get the score about 20, 25. And GK is so keep it absolutely sort of sensible. Okay, which brings us five learning. I'm going to put this five learning, and then then we'll pick questions. Learning number one: anything is possible. GP has already told. GP, you can repeat what he said with respect to the five sections or three sections: comprehension, quant, and GK.
GK. Oh, see, the essential thing is to understand you cannot predict what kind of paper you'll get in terms of degree of difficulty of each of the areas. Overall level of difficulty, by and large, is going to be similar. Okay, and that also you can see from the point from the scores which people have got this year and last year, and what are the cutoffs this year and last year. Okay, but the critical thing out here would be always be, don't try to predict that this will be a paper. All predictions that we do about the paper is post-mortem. Okay, no one predicts. We do an analysis of the paper, and we'll always say your job is to be ready for anything. Your job is to read the question. If you can answer, please answer it. If you can't, leave it and move on. Okay, so don't try to assume that this is the kind of paper I will get, and which is why in our mocks we will give you exposure to different kinds of papers so that you can handle whatever comes your way.
Right. Number two, I think we have said enough. You be a superstar. Whereas you can define what superstar means. Your superstar can be 70 marks, your superstar can be 80 marks, but ensure that whatever the fear that you have and about it, comprehension is something that can be built because it is skill based. Even if let's say I'm weak in something, we still have July, August, September. We have got 90 days. We can tell ourselves that in 90 days I will do a few things very very clearly so that I can build onto my comprehension. And I've seen people score improving. Be a superstar in comprehension. GP.
And if you are a CLAT 24 student, you have 12 months more. You have got 15 months to take care of this issue. Okay? So CLAT 24 students, diversify your reading habits. You have the luxury of time which CLAT 23 students don't have. Okay, so diversify your reading habit. The more variety you introduce into your reading, the better off you would be. Reading only one kind of newspaper or one kind of let's say articles or magazines or whatever will ensure that you get typecast. Anything which is outside that, for example, if you read the Hindu has a specific writing style. You'll become very comfortable with it. But if you get an Indian Express article, you'll be a little uncomfortable. Similarly, if you read only the Times of India, you'll have an issue. So it is important to diversify your reading habit. Read different genres, different art, different authors, different writers, different reading styles. Writing styles. Everything should be there in your agenda.
Yeah, basically it's a new hobby. Instead of Instagram, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah. And if you have to stop doing Instagram, Facebook, etc., I don't think most of these kids do Facebook now. But Insta or anything else you have to stop, please do so. Read,
Yeah,
read, and read. Remember, this is not a computer-based test. This is a paper-based test. So read offline, read on newspaper, read on paper. The more you read on paper, the more comfortable you will be. So visit your school library, pick up books and magazines, read from there. Don't visit only websites.
yeah. I mean,
I'm
GP.
sure I'm sure the theory of everything will be happy with this. Yeah,
Don't
don't
ignore.
ignore.
You
Don't
may
don't.
uh, You may love it, you may hate it, whatever relationship that you have with Quant, whatever trauma that it gave you in the past, I'm sure that please understand it is crackable. There's nothing complicated in this. I've seen, I've also seen, I've seen a case, GP. I want to tell some of the students, okay? There is one, two of them told me this, two, three of them who made it, getting into NLSI Bangalore. They need about 20 to 30 minutes. If they get 30 minutes, then they can actually get all the 15 questions, at least all the questions. Like they
Right.
reached this part. And then what they actually eventually did is, how do I give? I can't go anything beyond this. But because that person has an attitude of not ignoring QT, what they did was they ensured that they made their comprehension even stronger, so they can finish off the session faster, so that give extra time to QT and solve it. But all that will come with an attitude that I'm not going to ignore it. That there are a lot of ways you can. We're going to take a lot of mocks now.
See, look at it this way. If you ignore QT, that means you have got 135 questions with you, 100 reading and 35 of GK. Okay. Out of that 100 reading, now you need at least 75, and GK you need at least 25 out of 35. 25 out of 35, even in a normal paper, is not easy. The amount of effort required is going to be very high. And again, in QT, these are 2 or 3 areas you need to focus on: percentages and ratios. And ratio is nothing but a percentage with a denominator of 1. Okay. Percentage ratio. And the third thing I said was to make sure you are comfortable with averages, because that will help you in your calculation skills.
Get sensible plan in place for GK. Sensible plan. Your July, August, September, October, November, December examination. This is pretty hot, very hot. Okay, super hot. Currently super hot. Ensure that you have to start. I think that you just have to ensure that you read newspapers. A lot of people have said that you read newspaper. That is where you get news. Use Manthan, which is a weekly. You get it. You create task. If you want to discuss with your friends, do that. Make it very sensible. Don't go overboard at this point in time. Don't worry too much about what if, let's say, this unknown topic comes, then nobody's going to solve. It's okay. Uh, so just make a very very sensible plan.
And don't ignore static. Don't ignore past.
Yeah.
Don't
When
think current affair is GK.
when GP says static, what GP means is that on an event that you're looking at, let's say you're
Yes.
looking at XYZ event, within that event, ensure that you know all as much as possible, get to know as many facts as possible around that event.
Yeah. These are extremely important. What the example you gave a little while ago, Russia-Ukraine war. The question was the name of the president, and the choices were Vladimir Zelensky or Vladimir Zelensky. Now, I don't know how students would have handled that. What is the currency of Ukraine? Is it static? It is static. Is it current? It is current, because the issue is current. So I want students to get rid of this thing in their mind, that there's something called current, there's something called static. Why I said don't ignore static. I will go more with your definition, which means if you're picking up a issue related to it, whatever you need to know, you should be aware of it.
I think if you actually look at it, no, every day, what about if you look at the newspaper, you know that you eventually get a sense in terms of, okay, this seems to be a very important issue that is happening. Let's look at AFSPA issue that is there for a long period of time, and when you have issues like this, just read up multiple things. No, you just have to Google, click news, put the topic there. A lot of article that comes. Keep reading as much as you can, and you start learning. And we have interviewed so many achievers, right? And all these videos are put up in our channel. I don't know how many of you watched every single of them. I would want all of you to watch, at least as a hobby. Watch every single interview. You will understand what they did. There are a lot of things that you can pick. These are students who made it, and they're sharing what worked for them, what did not work for them. And I have seen, this is something that I've seen at GP, that when I was taking interview of rank 9, she was rank 9, rank 8, I don't remember, uh, rank 8, sorry, Janvi. She was saying that I watched Manhar Bansal's video, I watched Swati's video, and I learned something from that. Manar Bansal rank one, Swanti rank four. Everyone I've interviewed, everyone I've spoken to made it, said that they were watching the videos of the people who have done it. We tried to talk to as many students as we can, and we shared this. One of the things that they have said consistently is mock test. If let's say, if I don't take mock test, how will I know
Hmm.
what my level of comprehension is? If I don't take mock test, how will I know what kind of behavior is best for me? If I don't take mock test, how will I get myself exposed to all these different possibilities? And there is no doubt that everybody has unilaterally said that the career launcher mock test is the best, right? So it has to be taken. So while this is not something that we have shared, I think we'll come back and do one more session which will talk about what other toppers did, right? We will look, we are collating creating a session in terms of what the toppers did. We are trying to make that as a video. We'll do the session again, but it's absolutely important that you take mock test. GP.
Hmm. See, in fact, a few of the students who started preparing only about 6 to 8 months ago, they said they started the preparation by taking a paper. They said, I will first take a paper, I'll understand what this paper is all about. I will hence know what is my level in each of the areas, and that gives me a starting point as to what is to be done. That tells me what are my weak areas, what is that I need to work towards, and then how to improve in those areas is the second part. But first thing, I need to know where do I stand. Second thing they said is, on an average, all the students who have taken these papers, they have taken at least one mock a week. Okay, they taken the students who have taken only 40 papers, and they prepared for about 8 to 9 months. There are students who have taken 110 papers, 100 plus papers. Okay, so my point essentially is, you need to take mocks, and all of them said, if not for the LST mocks, we would not have made it, because LST mocks gave us a huge advantage over others because of the variety. Okay, because of the variety which we provided, because some papers the logic was difficult, some English was difficult, and others were easy, and so on and so forth. So they had a huge variety, and they were ready for all kind of surprises, and hence most of them were not bothered that they were not able to do so well in GK. They said that's okay. We have seen earlier papers in the mocks. We have done papers where it did not do well in GK, yet we got a good score, so we were not worried about it. So, and second, and then sorry, not secondly, thirdly, what they said was, after doing the papers, please analyze. Their sincere advice to everyone was, a 2 hour paper will need 4 to 5 hours of analysis. You need to do the entire paper again, see what you got wrong, check out which question you should not have attempted, check out which question you could have done faster. If you have made the mistake, see why you made the mistake, so that you don't repeat that stupidity again. So to them, it was it was as if a mock was a complete learning experience on its own.
I mean, if you actually look at the CLAT, what is the syllabus? I think people can look at legal reasoning and say, okay, I can create a syllabus, contract law and tort and constitutional law, ABCD. But at the end of the day, it's about applying the principle onto the fact.
Yeah.
That's a skill. So you can it's like creating a syllabus for reading comprehension. Okay, let me look at natural science passages, physics, chemistry, biology, social science passages. It's about what, reading something, and where is the syllabus? Your quant has got what, basic percentages, basic this one. So if you are someone who is absolutely serious of getting it, this is something that you have to do. Once you keep doing that, you'll keep learning, and you'll be able to handle a lot many things. Yeah. So we can pick up questions.
Yes.
Some question. Is there a chance of postponement? Oh
Why?
my God.
Sanjana, why are you worried about postponement?
No, I
You
don't
should
know.
prepare, even if there's a chance of postponement, which I don't see any reason why it will get postponed. Even if there's a chance, you should assume that that paper will happen on in December and prepare accordingly. If it get postponed, you get extra time. If you work on the assumption of postponement and it does not get postponed, you are in a soup.
Okay, so we've got this one. So, hello, sir. I was a dropper and gave CLAT 2020. Got all India at 6,000. Which college should I apply for? Okay, there's a very slightly different question.
Well, my suggestion is that just connect with the closest LST center. They'll guide you on this issue. difficult for us to give it out here at this point of time without having the full information about you.
Correct. Correct. We will need to understand. Vivek has a question. How can we develop vocabulary? GP.
Yeah, you see, first of all, we talked about this a little while ago. Vocabulary, which is asked in CLAT, IELTS, is more of contextual vocabulary. You read a passage, you come across a word in context of the passage, they'll ask you the meaning, and if you have a reasonable reading habit, you'll be able to handle it. However, if you still want to start doing something about it, pick up Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis. There's another book called 30 Days to Words of Power by Wilfred Trunk and Norman Lewis. Please go through those books. It will give you a base. After that, uh, go through passages wherever we come across a new word, note it down, start using it. If you don't use a word, you will forget it very fast.
Sir, should I devote some more time than usual if legal? I'm confident enough to score 35 to 38. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, you're assuming certain things that you are confident of scoring 35 to 38. So when you're taking any test, there is no plan. Your only plan, and we'll discuss this separately when we do the analysis of the mock that we'll do. Only plan has to be if I can solve the question, I'll solve it. If I can't solve, I can't solve it. So, I'm sure that if you do analysis, you will get to know.
Also, Siyash, when you take the mocks, experiment. 40 mocks, first 8, 10 mocks, you experiment, understand what is the best method or the best approach for you in terms of attempting the paper. Okay, and you'll find out for yourself whether it will work for you or not. Please understand, each one of you is different and different things will work for you. There's no one size fits all.
Sankalp, mock score stuck at 70, 75 for the last two mocks. Any tips for increasing it to 90 plus? GP.
No, Sankalp, no tips, because we don't know what is the issue. On the contrary, if you just analyze your last 3 mocks and see why are you stuck, where have you wasted time, which are the questions you should not have attempted, which are the easy question you missed, you will yourself be able to identify why are you stuck and what is it that you need to do to get to a 90 plus. So to me, that detailed analysis of the paper or your attempt is partly missing, hence you are confused as to what is to be done.
Sir, I'm from online batch because no center in my city and newspaper is not available offline. So basically, my whole prep is online, even my mocks, but I read novels. So will it affect me? So,
That's okay, Suraj. See, it is not that you have to read everything offline. The idea is to get comfortable with different kind of things, and since the dynamics of reading online offline are slightly different, hence it is advisable. Secondly, while you are from online batch, newspaper is available on or not available offline, I'm sure there's a library close to your home. Please go to the library and read if you want to.
yeah. And please figure out a way in which you can take the mock test offline, at least some of them.
Yeah.
Right. So that is important. How should we go with news analysis preparation? Mathri, I think eventually everybody will figure out a way in which they want to. It's about retaining information, right? So eventually everybody will figure out a way in which they want to retain. There are three things when it comes to GK. Let me quickly talk about it. Three things when it comes to GK. One is you have to obviously get information in your head, right? So you need to consume information. Second is you need to retain those information. Third is you have to test yourself on a regular basis. Consume, retain, test. So your preparation has to be that if you understand the context around the story, if you know the story, then you'll remember a lot many things. So as a habit, know the story. So therefore, knowing the story is reading newspaper on a regular basis. So on a daily basis, ensure that you read newspapers. At a week, we have got a weekly monthly. You go through each one and go those news in a little bit of in-depth analysis, which means you keep checking the factor on the whole thing and create some sort of repository saying that I would want to analyze this news first, and then ensure that you keep testing yourself. There are daily tests available on our website. There is monthly itself as a test. So maybe somebody can ask questions and test. So ensure that you do that. Okay. Sir, I'm able to attempt 90 to 95 questions per mock. How can I increase my number of attempts?
I think we'll have to give the same answer we gave to Suyash. Have you
Yeah,
analyzed your paper, Devam? Sorry.
I think you have to redo the paper once again without any time limit, without looking at the options. That is your first step. I can straight away say that you're attempting 95 to 100. There could be a lot many reasons. Either you don't know the remaining 50 questions, or you did not get time to solve the remaining 50 questions. So it is absolutely important to understand the problem. These are all symptoms. So the first thing that you would look at, first thing you have to look at, uh, ensuring that you have done the analysis, which is absolutely crucial. So Sudeshan has a question. Sir, please tell about Quant. My question was, oh my goodness, what was the question? I have to probably pick up what question that you asked. If I can get one. Okay, so this one. GP, math is
Yeah.
very weak. What can be the best source for basic maths?
LSC study material is good enough. Don't need to go beyond it. Focus on the easy question level difficulty 1 or 2. Don't go for the highest level of difficulty. To begin with, focus only on level 1 and ignore entire maths. You are only talking about arithmetic, and within arithmetic, percentages, ratio, proportion, and averages are the only three topics you need to look at. Secondly, every set that comes in any of the mocks, please make sure you're thorough with it. Similarly, pick up last 3 years CLAT papers, which is CLAT 20, 21, and 22. Ignore one odd set which is incorrect and do these sets to become comfortable with it. So your focus has to be very limited towards the old papers, mocks, and finally the study material which has been provided to you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There is no best source. You just have to be very comfortable with percentages, ratios. Uh, so once you get that basic comfort, is about just using the content that you have. How important is to go through the current affairs before month of June for CLAT in December? So before the month of June could be anywhere. If I look at the previous 3 years, since current affairs moves, if somebody were to set up a question on in the month of, let's say, October somewhere, maybe for October, typically since the current affairs moves, story moves, you'll likely see events which are closer to the test, unless of course this event happened. And there are three kind of events. No, event happened and continued to happen. One event, Russian Ukraine war, is still happening. Event happened sometime before and stopped, or one-time event. Let's say Oscar awards, right? So you might have certain one-time event, major events that you can look at, which you believe it's important. Let's say Olympics or something like that. I don't think Olympic happened. So some major sort of award, Nobel Prize, and stuff like that. That something that you can look at. But otherwise, by and large, stick to the latest one. Your priority, of course, has to be from now. If you have time, then you can go back. GB, a question for you. Should I take up HPNLU or should I give CLAT in 2023?
Parikshit, if you are reasonably confident of getting a higher score, then you can afford to take a chance. I'm assuming, Parikshit, this was your first attempt at that. You were in class 12, you had taken board exam, and this was your first attempt. If this was already your second attempt, then I would not recommend a retake. I would say 2 attempts are more than enough. You could go to HPNLU, or you could do your graduation from wherever and go for a 3 LLB. But if it is your first attempt, then yes, you can afford to take it. HPNLU means that you had a reasonable rank, sub 3,000 possibly, and you can probably hope to improve. But then you are looking at improving. If you are looking at the top 5, 6 NLUs, you are looking at the sub 500 rank. And if you are looking at the top 3 NLUs, you are looking at the sub 200 rank. So please be clear about those benchmarks. Take a honest inward look and ask yourself, are you capable? Do you think you can put in the effort? Capability is not an issue to me. It is the amount of effort which you can put up to be able to get it. If you can, great. Another alternative for you, Parikshit, could even be join HPNLU and take CLAT. Do both. We have created a backup in HPNLU, and I'm reasonably sure these 6 months at HPNLU will help you become better in test taking also. Your reading habits will definitely improve.
Jinesh, please answer my question. I don't know. I forgot. Jinesh, I can't find out. I've lost. Please type again. Uh, are the 5.5 months enough for preparation for the upcoming CLAT? Yes, Maitri. It's
Yes.
more than enough.
I had yesterday itself met two students. One started in October, one started in January. Okay, and both of them are in the top, not the top three, top seven NLUs. Okay, so definitely possible. And one of them messed up the OMR, 12 wrong answers because she filled up OMR incorrectly. That was actually heartbreaking.
So January to June, month and 2.0, yeah, weekly month and say, don't know,
Both
Jimmy.
both
Don't
यार
know.
दोनों करना है.
दोनों.
ऑप्शन नहीं है.
What is all needed to get into the star batch of 23? Star batch is very simple. It is this time we'll do two things. One is we'll have a star batch, which is a set of students who are taking mocks regularly, right? That is, if you take the mock regularly, we'll pick it up and we'll help you out with the process. Then you can interact with them. The second is, of course, if you're doing also doing well, then we create a sort of a separate batch, which is through invitation only. Okay, Jinai, I'm going to figure out where you ask the question and then probably going to pick that one up. Yeah, there you go. Okay. I understood GP has 3-section comprehension theory. Please make a video on how to improve reading speed and comprehension
Yeah.
skills.
I think we'll do separate videos on each of the sections, also on how to analyze the paper. I think those things which we will do separately. And Gejo, we are already at 8:50. I think we should close.
Yeah, we'll just pick
Uh,
a couple of more quickly.
mhm.
How to do logical reasoning more accurate. I think we'll do that, Saurabh. I have already recorded one video on reading comprehension, which will come up soon, and then I'll also do logical reasoning. सर सीए कब से कब तक करना है क्लैट 2023 के लिए? अंकित, तो पहले तो कब से पता नहीं है, कब तक तो शायद पेपर बेस्ड टेस्ट है, तो प्रिंटिंग में जाना होगा. So I'm guessing that probably till about October, no, September-ish for sure. I think the June, July, August, September. I think they should be the hot
I'll
months.
say October, November, till okay. Assuming the date of the paper will be somewhere around 15th, 20th of December, I'll say till October. Then definitely you may need to go up to mid-November. But to me, that is later. अभी का तो करो पहले यार.
Yeah, करते रहो, करते रहो. When will the star batch start? I think it start next month. Cutoff for endless is still Kushagra cutoff is still going on. The process is still going on. They've not finished the process. So once it is done, we'll get to know. Probably very similar to last year. Okay, I think that we have answered as many as we could. I hope that this session was beneficial. We could see the whole thing. So we have got some more requests. So please make more session on CRNRC. They are amazing. GP sir, please take more legal reasoning classes. Okay, you will see more of me and GP if you take the mock regularly. That's something that we
Yes.
promise. Okay.
See, I'll definitely do analysis of legal section of a few of the mocks. So take mocks if you want to learn legal reasoning from me. That is what I will tell you.
Your access to me and GP will be, if you take the mock regularly, then you get access to me and GP. It's a simple story.
Okay, good night. All the best.
Good night. Goodbye.